it wasn't until the end of 21 that I started getting active on Twitter, and my account just went from like 1,000 to 5,000 to 30,000 in a short amount of time. But let's go back a minute, because the lockdowns was the first time that I started to see the writing on the wall. I mean, I was going back and forth between St. Louis and New York every month, and I was working there, and then I was working in St. Louis, and I saw the lockdown protests, right? The business owners are like, we're essential, we need to do this. And you heard the news rail against them, like, these are grandma killers, they're selfish, they're right-wing extremists. And then the next week, George Floyd happened. Yep. And the whole narrative flipped, right? They're like, well, you can protest for social justice.
It's healthy to protest.
It's healthy to protest. And I'm like, okay, you either don't know what you're talking about, or you want all these people at the George Floyd protest to die. Like, what is the truth here? Because it can't be one way for one platform and one way for a different. So that to me was one of the first times. And they really caught me off guard, because I've never seen that many people that sick and die. Like, it really felt like I was in a movie, like an Ebola movie, where everybody was sick with the same thing. You never see that in the ER. Everybody was short of breath. We ran out of oxygen in the hospital. That literally happened.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand. Like, it was real. I mean, it wasn't just like it was a virus. It was, I believe that it was man-made, and it was a bioweapon to take down a sitting president. I believe all of that. And still we're suffering the effects from it. Let's fast forward to the pharma juice, as we call it.
Yeah. Yes.
So when that started coming out, they're saying that it was 100%, right? Like, and you know, you and I both were probably like, there's no long-term safety and efficacy studies on this. Like, what's going on? And then it just continued to go downhill from there. So did that like, with all these scenarios with, you know, the remdesivir and you know, their protocol, the hospital protocol, now they're pushing an untested pharma juice. You know, was that when you start having an epiphany in your mind where you're like, you know what, I need to do something. I need to help folks. So when did that transition to you saying, I need to start this clinic?
Yeah. So again, 2020, when these protests hit, it was kind of the first thing. And then the whole reason I went to New York is because I was sick and I had natural immunity. So my whole life for 2020 was founded on natural immunity. And so they would ask me, are you getting the shots? I'm like, I don't need the shots. I've already been sick. Like, I'm fine. And so it was never like a big political stance that I wasn't going to do it. It was just like a natural evolution. And then 21 came, and they started bringing the hammer down for this. And you know, the level of propaganda, like, anyone who's done medicine more than 5 minutes knows nothing's 100%, like maybe 60% at the best, maybe. So that was propaganda. And then they started putting stuff on the walls at the hospital. You know, this is safe for pregnant women. I'm like, that is not true. And they would feature people who would get the shots. They would do big stories about them. And they would have buttons and stickers. And I'm like, we've never seen anything like this ever. If you replace pharma juice for, say, hernia surgery, everybody in the world has to go get a hernia surgery or get their gallbladders out. It sounds ridiculous. Yeah. So why is this intervention so different that we can do this to people and we can intimidate them and threaten their jobs? And so the harder they push, the more I push back.